Welcome to Movie House Cinemas. Popcorn? Yes, please. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the movie. Reclining chairs? Don't mind if I do. Action, thriller, romance, we got it all. Discover the cinema today. Movie House Cinemas, home of the movies.
Good evening, and welcome along to another episode of Rob and Elliott Tonight. It's good to have your company with us once again. Coming up on the show, we're heading back to the 1980s. We're going to meet a group who had hits with songs like Labour of Love and Looking for Linda. Hue and Cry are going to be here.
You know, all the paparazzi were following a limousine, but Madonna used to turn up in a white transit van with the crew. The limousine was a complete decoy. I used to laugh at these stupid paparazzi, and he used to take them on a wild goose chase all around Mayfair and Kensington, and she was in a transit van heading to Wembley Stadium.
We'll be talking about beating those January blues, also be chatting about mushrooms and being married to Peter Andre. Kim Kelly is going to catch up with Emily Andre a little bit later on.
I think you can disguise healthy foods within dishes for your kids. I think as well it's just about persevering a little bit, because I honestly think, especially when you're like the weaning stages for a baby, they've got to try new things. I think it's around 10 times before they will actually like it.
We'll get the lowdown on the documentary that everybody is talking about. The Boyzone documentary arrives this weekend, and we'll talk to Showbiz journalist Paul Martin.
I think it's going to be a brilliant documentary. I think they've all been honest about it. I've been honest about it from my point of view. Louis Walsh has probably been too honest about it. And Rob and Elliott will decide whose career's over out of it, I guess.
We'll find out about a brand new novel from author Holly Miles.
It's been amazing because her dream was realised, and we decided to have the launch party on what would have been her 40th birthday on Wednesday, the 22nd of January, and to have a tribute like that. I mean, how many people get their book in print and a launch party on their 40th birthday? And I had a lot of mummy pride.
And we'll be chatting about this year's Smiley Charity Film Awards.
There's a film for the British Hedgehog Preservation Society. Wonderful little stop-motion animation, all about how to make your garden hedgehog-friendly. There you go, you didn't think we were going to talk about hedgehogs.
Plus, we'll have brand new music from James Everett, Sara-Louise Hutton and Celine Egan. So that's all coming up on the show tonight. Before all that, let's take a look at some of the more quirky news stories of the week. And to help us do that, I was joined earlier on today by Mr. Showbiz himself, Paul Martin. We're going live to Miami. Mr. Showbiz, Paul Martin, are you there?
I am here. Can you see here, Robin? I don't want
That
to
is
make you
just
jealous.
showing off.
This is actually our back garden, believe it or not. Jenny the dog in my back garden. And Robin, we've been inviting you for 2 years. So
Yeah.
It's your own fault that you haven't been here yet. But you can come and do a live show right here anytime you want. They're waiting for you, Robin. You have a fan club here.
Okay, we will come and do that. We'll come live from Miami. Right, let's talk news stories now. We're going to leave the big news story, the big documentary, until the end. But we are going to start off by talking about another documentary. What have you got for us?
Right, so we like to talk about the crazy news stories, as you know, Robin. It's where it is my comfort zone. Now, this is nuts, but it's not nuts, if you get my drift, because I'm going to hold my hands up now and tell you this is a serious documentary. I'm a believer, and I know you are too. There's a new documentary coming out called The Age of Disclosure. It is all over the news, back home in there in Ireland. Here in the USA, where everybody is whacked, UFO whistleblowers are to expose what they're calling an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human existence. This is not a joke this time round. They have interviews with 34 current former senior members of the US government, military, intelligence community, including the head of security for the USA under Barack Obama. These are high-level sources. I mean, one of those would do to get a front page for me. And it says that there's been an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life. And and it's all going to come out. There's a secret race to war and technology for the technology to make these things more human. Is it scary? It's gripping. Do you want to run the clip?
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
Wow.
I mean, Robin, this
Wow.
is... I'm not, I was tempted on our radio show, PM in the AM, to play a bit of like, X-Files music under this, but I'm actually not going to trivialize it on this occasion. That'd be an easy thing for me to do. This is 36 government sources saying, look, we've seen so much with UAPs and everything. I'm sure you've seen it every day in the national newspapers, especially Daily Mail. There's another story about, they've had Senate full disclosure in the Senate under sworn testimony. It's getting very real, isn't it? And it's getting very like we're at a point now where people are going to start, we're almost being set up for some kind of big announcement. I don't know what that is, but this documentary, when it hits the screen, is gripping, scary. And I'm going to be honest, people can laugh at me if they want. I don't care. I believe it because 36 government sources would get this story past any newspaper editor. And I used to be one of those.
Exactly. Well, there's two gripping documentaries then that we have to look forward to coming very soon. But we'll talk about the other one at the end. But we're going to talk about somebody who's cracked the code to a happy marriage. Tell us about this.
You know what, Robin? I love this story. When I first saw this story, I think you're showing a picture there. Yes. When I first saw this story, I thought, what on earth now? But then I realized this person is a genius. The story reads, a Dublin trans woman has married themselves. This is the key here, folks. Has married themselves in what is believed to be the first marriage of its kind in the history of the state of Ireland, right? It's George Dunn from Drimnagh, great place, great part of the world, said they're proud to be the first person in Ireland, rightly so, to marry themselves, and told reporters that they hope other people will now have the courage to do the same. Now, this person, don't ridicule them, folks. I think this person, or them rather, this is the person who has cracked the code. I didn't know you could marry yourself. Did you, Robin?
I didn't know that, but
I mean,
if anybody was going to marry themselves, it would be you.
I knew this was coming, and I was about to own it, Robin. I was about to own it. I have to say, listen, everybody knows I've been in love with myself for about 20 years. So it's about time I got down on one knee and popped the question, I think. It sounds, you can see the picture here as well. I love this, the half suit, the half bride's dress. I'll tell you something, if they get divorced, it'll be really messy. I wonder what the divorce would be like.
Exactly. Yeah, scary
We
stuff.
need cameras. Robin, if that happens, we need cameras at it, okay? We need cameras at the divorce, at the court case. Who will get what?
One final story we have to talk about this weekend. The most talked about documentary of the year lands on our TV screens. We're talking about the Boyzone documentary. Here's the trailer.
There are things that happened that were cruel. Standing on stage in front of 100,000 people, it was a lonely time.
Boyzone band member Stephen Gately has died.
I had to call the guys and give them the news.
No, not our Stephen.
Everything had changed.
I've not spoke to Mick for 4 years.
I made choices that I'm not proud of. After 30 years, I think now's the time to talk about it.
Wow.
I am featured heavily in this documentary over all 3 episodes, but I've spoken to Sky about which episodes I'll be featured, what I'm going to be saying, because you kind of forget after filming for 7 hours. There are so many comments online, so many thousands, that it can only be a matter of time on Monday. I think Monday morning, I might not. I'll ask you, Robert, what they're saying about me. I don't want to look at myself.
The thing about this documentary, I mean, it's going to be very, very dark. It's going to show the dark side of fame. And it's going to show the dark side of what you guys as tabloid journalists get up to as well. So are you genuinely afraid of how you're going to come out of this documentary?
You know what, Robin? I'm not. I spoke to the producer. I was initially, when I rang you up and says, please rub my head, Robin. I'm really scared. That was when I was filming it. Yeah. But actually, I've spoken to the directors of the show. They said, listen, people favor honesty. And I am very honest. As Boyzone are, Ronan admits that he did wrong things. And I'll go back to this. And this is not a disclaimer, Robin. People will view it and make their own opinions up. But I have been ruthlessly honest about the 90s, early 2000s tabloid things that were going on. And what I would say is this. When Boyzone, at the beginning, middle, and end of Boyzone, at every moment, you'll see in this documentary, they were coming to me to air their dirty linen, to have a go at Ronan. Stephen Gately was coming to me about his depression a year before he tragically passed away. He wanted to do it. We were a voice for them. So it's a really kind of strange situation. I definitely own how bad. There is one, like, can I give you one more line? I'm not meant to say this either.
Go on. Yeah.
I said when I was over at the Stephen Gately, and I've forgotten I said this, when I was over covering the Stephen Gately death in Mallorca, I believe, wasn't it? And I was over there, and I said in that I was in a hotel where all the UK London journalists had flown into, and it's about midnight, and they're all sitting having a drink after, the news had broken and trying to get their stories. And I said, what I heard on that night was the first time I looked at the press, what I was part of, and thought, and this is a quote, what a complete pile of scumbags. Now, for a journalist to say that about my own industry, now that doesn't, that's not an all-encompassing thing. So there are those honest moments from me and the band as well. But they, Shane Lynch came back, Stephen Gately talked to me right up until the end. And when they reunited, like, you were there, I remember it. I was there too, backstage with them, hanging out. So Boyzone really did use the press to their advantage. It wasn't just Louis Walsh made up stories. It really wasn't. And I'll tell you all about that the next week if you want.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some of the great stories that are made up by some of the major players, and I'll show you them to me. But I think it's going to be a brilliant documentary. I think they've all been honest about it. I've been honest about it from my point of view. Louis Walsh has probably been too honest about it. And Robin Elliott will decide whose career's over out of it, I guess. Who sinks or swims.
The thing, people will be watching this right now and they're going to say, hang on, he's not around in the country when the documentary comes out. You're hiding away in Miami.
Oh, don't tell me you know this story.
And I also know as well, Louis Walsh is in Miami at the moment as well.
It's the Louis text that says Louis is here in Miami.
I did not.
And it is on me, 100%.
She told Robin, exactly. Thanks, Jenny, for that. Yes, we both fled to Miami 3 days before the documentary comes out, 3 or 4 days. What does that say? He's about a mile from here. He's out of the country in Miami. I'm out of the country in Miami. And we're the two ones that are going to definitely get in this documentary. But equally, I mean, the other week, Robin, let's talk about reality here. And I get it. About 3 days ago, Ronan gave his exclusive first radio interview to RTE, which is fine, but it wasn't me. So, I mean, where loyalties work both ways and all that, obviously he's going to pick RTE instead of this, rap stallion here. But, it does what people do, what suits them at the time.
Yeah, indeed. Right. The documentary drops this weekend. We'd love to know your thoughts. We'd love to know your thoughts on Louis, your thoughts on Paul Martin. Feel free to get in touch with us. Mr. Showbiz, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm off to check in with Louis Walsh. See you later, Robin.
So, still to come on Robin Elliott tonight, we'll be talking about this year's Smiley Charity Film Awards. I'm going to find out about a brand new groundbreaking novel called Another Time by author Holly Miles. We'll meet Holly's mum Jennifer and one of the publishers of the novel right after these.
Heading to the North Coast? The Jet Centre in Korean offers entertainment for everyone. There's an 8-screen movie house cinema with all the best movies, 10-pin bowling, a massive arcade, soft play for the wee ones. Outdoors, there's a mini fun park and gem mining, plus an 18-hole floodlit mini golf course. Rain or shine, there's something for everyone here at the Jet Centre. Find out more at thejetcentre.co.uk.
So welcome back to Robin Elliott tonight. Next up, we're talking about this brand new book, in fact a groundbreaking novel. It's called Another Time. This is by Holly Miles. And sadly, Holly passed away back in 2020, but the book has just been published, and I'm pleased to say Holly's mum Jennifer and Andy, who's published the book, join us now in the studio. Guys, welcome. Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. We're nearly 5 years on since Holly's death, and it must be amazing to get the book released on what would have been her 40th birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. It was mind-blowing almost. I couldn't believe, because Andy has been amazing and worked tirelessly for this last couple of years. I had the manuscripts and he contacted me, and he has never given up, and it's been amazing because her dream was realised, and we decided to have the launch party on what would have been her 40th birthday on Wednesday the 22nd of January, and to have a tribute like that, I mean, how many people get their book in print and a launch party on their 40th birthday? And I had a lot of mummy pride,
exactly.
But it was amazing, and that people came out mid-January, midwinter, and we had some lovely interactions and lovely comments, and it was amazing. It's hard to completely articulate it because I am still on a little high, yes. I think. So I'm very, very proud and pleased, and the fact that we want our loved ones remembered and say their name, and her name is being said, and it's just, and her words will resonate hopefully, and the message get across because she felt passionately about the subject matter and fairness and justice, and so yeah, I was very, very pleased.
Tell us about Holly, because she did have quite a lot published before this book as well, and she wrote, as we've said, things very close to her heart. Tell us about the subject in this book then.
The subject is about reproductive rights, women, and the north of Ireland, and the difficulties in obtaining termination, and the character is set that she's a university student and has to travel, becomes pregnant, an unwanted pregnancy, and has to travel to Glasgow for a termination, and it was wrestling with the whole dynamics of that, the difficulties and the challenges, and telling her parents, and just going through that whole process and fighting for, you know, rights, women's rights, and the right to obtain something like that closer to home. And it was, yeah, basically sort of about that, and telling the story of Jane, who is the central character, and how she came to terms with this, how it affected her, the relationship with the child's father and their family, and how she came through the other end of that. So that's what the book, and they mentioned the organisation ROSA, which was pivotal, the feminist socialist group that do a lot of work for women and these issues that are, you know, are very important. So, and it's highlighted that, which I thought was pretty important, and I think she did a good job and kept it very local. It's all quite local.
Andy, tell us about Holly, because she was a friend of yours.
Very, very good friend, always had my back. It's very difficult working as a writer and an artist if you are outside of accepted sort of institutions of being in the in crowd. And Holly and I would meet regularly to write together, to talk about story structure and character motivations, and also politics, and set the world to right. Yeah, she's just a fantastic individual. Jennifer has poured praise on me and our other editors, Sandra Walsh and Claire Dixon, about how good we've been. But it's just, that hasn't really occurred to me a lot, because it's the right thing to do, because this was Holly.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think she probably would have done the same for me. She was just always had my back, and I couldn't do any less.
And everything she wrote about was always stuff that she was deeply passionate about. I knew she also wrote one called Tulip, which was about Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah,
as well.
That's powerful. That's in the Breaking the Surface collection, and it's just a really short, lovely piece. Yeah, Holly was very active with the left wing of the Labour Party, and always talking politics, and getting involved in petitions on 38 Degrees and other websites like that.
What was she like growing up, Jennifer? Michelle was somebody who was always writing. Michelle was this passionate even from a very early age.
She did. She was always a little girl that liked to be doing things, always doing things. She could never. Her brother was the passive one, and she had to be doing things. But she did always feel that sense of, you know, women, even the voting thing, because sometimes you get a little lacklustre and say, no, we're not bothered. No, women died for us to get the vote. And she always had that sense, which I always thought was admirable, that what was right and what was wrong, and things that were just, she wanted to highlight sort of the underdog, that kind of thing, and things even, because there's another novel that's coming, and it's based on disability and payments and things that were relevant. She was never going to be a Mills and Boon author. Let's face it. She was radical and wanted to highlight things that maybe other authors, other people would veer away from. But yeah, she would have always been passionate about that, and people shouldn't just assume that because of the way you dress that it's a man keeping you. It's just little things like that.
Yeah.
She was always, which I really admired, because she would have, she would have raised her head a little bit above the parapet, and highlighted things like that. So these were things that she did feel, and she felt a strong sense of right and wrong, and she was opinionated and. Challenging at times, shall we say, but the most interesting people are, aren't they?
Sure. So if people want to get their hands on this book, how do they go about doing that then?
So at the moment we are just online, but we are in about 12 stores. We're on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I think you possibly order it through Waterstones, because we're in the Gardener's distribution network. Apple, Kobo. Next week we will be stocked in Abuware, which is in the Smithfield Market area. We're also hoping that a rather well-known bookstore or two up in Stranmillis area, or Botanic, will be placing that on their shelves.
Brilliant. Now, you've got a book out yourself, haven't you?
I do.
Tell us about your book.
I just released 2 months ago Coastlines After Dark, which is a slapstick horror anthology based on that sort of, it was a dull and stormy night, bad television. It's all laid out like television scripts for a fictional TV series. And it's incredibly funny. You can go through each of the stories in about 10 minutes. It's a really good read, a really silly read.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Jennifer. Lovely to meet you too. And the best of luck. Another Time is out now. Okay, time now to shine the spotlight on some of the nation's most inspiring charities and find out about this year's Smiley Charity Film Awards. What's it all about? Let's ask the co-founder of the awards, Simon Burton, who joins us now. Simon, how are you today?
I'm great, Robin. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So for people who don't know, what exactly are the Smiley Charity Film Awards and how did all this come about?
Smiley Charity Film Awards is the world's biggest cause-based film competition. Over 500 films have entered this year. Hundreds of thousands of people have voted over their history. We've driven billions of extra views of the films. But for your listeners' perspective, the awards are strictly come dancing for charity films. So the charities put their films forward, and then the members of the public and their supporters vote for their favourites, and then some professional judges get involved, and we have this amazing gala ceremony in London with celebrities and the media, and we show the winning films.
Now, charities are having a tough time at the moment. Everybody's fighting out there to get money to keep their charity going. But I suppose the best way to highlight the work of a charity is do it visually, do it through video.
Well, obviously, between me and you, the most important medium is radio. But after that, in 2025, the most important thing is video. How do you work on TikTok? How do you work on Instagram? How do you work on YouTube? And because people have got smartphones, I promise you, a smartphone and a clever idea is enough to make an amazing charity film.
So this year you've had something like over 500 entries to the awards. So you must have watched some truly inspirational stuff. Any that really stand out?
I often say I should apply to the Guinness Book of Records for the man who's watched the most charity films, because over the course of the awards, I think I've watched all 3,500 of them. And so it feels really unfair to call any particular films out. But a couple that have struck me already. There's a film for the British Hedgehog Preservation Society. Wonderful little stop-motion animation, all about how to make your garden hedgehog-friendly. There you go. You didn't think we were going to talk about hedgehogs.
Definitely not. Let's take a look at that video that we're just talking about.
As night begins to fade, it's time to return home. Mum leads her hoglets back to the nest before realising her mistake. No littlest hoglet. She looks around, distressed, trying to catch scent of her littlest hoglet. She knows it's getting late. The sun will soon be rising. Several gardens away, lost and alone, the littlest hoglet has learned to be resourceful and follow his nose. But not everything is easy pickings. A spike on the nose makes the dog angry.
Molly, that's enough, girl.
Seizing a moment of distraction, the littlest hoglet seeks refuge in a log pile.
Molly!
There's another fun film starring diver Tom Daly. Very, very short. It's brilliant because it illustrates these films are not what you expect. It's called Don't Drink and Dive. But there are other films about veterans charities, about care for the elderly, about international development, about animal welfare, and all of these causes, about small community charities. All of these people and these organisations doing incredible work, the length and breadth of our country. And we're helping shine the light and give them recognition.
And what about this year's gala ceremony? When and where is it taking place?
It's March the 20th and it's Indigo O2 at the O2 in London. So what's amazing as these awards have grown is we're going to be about twice as big this time. And twice as big means we can invite more charities along. The charities don't pay at any stage to be involved. And we'll have more celebrities and more media, and we show the winning films and we give everyone popcorn because it's like a film festival. And it's just this amazing night of people who do good coming together to celebrate the work they do. And of course, we have lots of tears, but lots of laughter and lots of hope and optimism.
And next year, if people out there want to enter the awards, how do they go about doing that?
So the first thing I suggest to a charity that wants to get involved that haven't is watch this year. We'll live stream the event, look at the films, take some inspiration, and then in September we'll open the awards again for entry, and it takes, I think we calculated it's 7 clicks for a charity to enter. Completely free of charge, get their YouTube link, a couple of clicks, create their profile, and they're up and running.
Well, Simon, the best of luck with this year's awards ceremony. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, staying with the awards, the Ulster Supported Employment Limited charity, they entered the awards last year, and we'll find out more because Jason Lear from the charity joins us now. Jason, thank you for joining us. So what does an awards ceremony like this mean for people in the charity sector? What does it mean to be nominated for an award?
For us, I think we're very big around student voice. So we're obviously working with young people with additional needs. And it was one of those things where you sort of say, are we good? A bit of imposter syndrome, I suppose. Are we good enough for this? As I suppose a digital skills tutoring and looking at the cohort of learners that we're working with and saying, well, look, these kids surprise us every day of the week. So let's put an application in and see where we go with it. So we went through the process of creating a film, and when we come to the end of the film, it was one of those wow and crying moments, I think, for everybody in the building when we put it up on the board and we decided, well, let's submit this. And we didn't realise that it was UK-wide and there was 600 submissions, and a lot of them, so we got to the final and a lot of them were film schools. So we were competing against university film schools. So for us, I say for us, for the young people, I think the self-esteem of that in terms of saying, look at what we can do. When we look at ability and not disability, look what we can do.
So tell us about your charity then, Ulster Supported Employment Limited. What exactly do you guys do?
The part I work in as an associate trainer is the Skills for Work and Life programme. And that is a programme funded by the Department of Economy for people aged 16 to 24 years of age, working towards, I suppose, people that didn't get their GCSEs maybe or lower level attainment, and it's trying to get them into a training pathway. I suppose a bit like an intervention programme to stop them becoming not in educational training. With us, we focus primarily on young people with additional needs. And then the organisation on a wider scope also operate the ability cafes that you might be aware of. One at the Spectrum Centre there was Belfast Zoo and the Lady Dixon Park. They operate that. And then we also have a factory where they make bags for like the emergency services, and there's a recycling centre as well where they shred documents. And the majority of the employed staff within these organisations all have an additional need.
Digital media plays a big part in life in general at the minute, and it's also a big part of what you guys do as well.
Well, that's my main focus. I'm a tutor in that area, in that space with the young people. So, and I think we identified very early on that there was a specific qualification called ICT Essential Skills. And personally, I didn't feel it mapped into the skills of the people we were working with. So we looked at it from a point of view of, well, these young people are living in a digital world. The content consumers. So we looked at the concept of student voice. How do we teach? So we teach these young people by, I suppose, being content creators. Yeah. So you give them a topic and say, right, use podcasting equipment. I want you to go away and learn about fake news. So I can give you a perfect example. A couple of weeks ago, we were learning about fake news, and we got the young people to create 2 types of stories. One had to be fake and one had to be real, and the rest of the class had to work out which was which. But the skills that taught them, not only in obviously the content creation, but taught them a lot of lessons around how easy it is to make fake, but how do you fact check whether it's fake or not? Yeah. And they've gone away with some amazing skills now. I think for us all, we're all content rich. I'm sure we all do it. We all sit scrolling at some stage of the day through our media, and I think that's an important thing for us, is getting what we do out in that form of a message and some sort of this conversation I'm having with you today is very much about making people aware of what we do, how amazing the people we work with, and what they can bring. But it's also teaching those people how to use these tools responsibly and ethically as well.
Well, the best of luck with entering the awards next year. Good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Right, time now for this week's What's On Guide. We take a look and see what's happening throughout Belfast and beyond over the next week or so. We're starting off at the Grand Opera House, and the National Theatre's acclaimed production of Warhorse makes its Northern Ireland premiere at the Grand Opera House from the 4th until the 15th of February. And this all-new UK and Ireland tour is an unforgettable theatrical experience which takes audiences on an extraordinary journey from the fields of rural Devon to the trenches of the First World War in France. And Warhorse runs at the Grand Opera House until the 15th of February. Let's head over to the Lyric Theatre, and the Gap Year is back by popular demand after its smash hit debut in 2022. And this heartwarming and hilarious comedy follows newly widowed Kate, childminder-in-chief Roisin, and their best friend Una. They've decided enough is enough. Life is too short, and they're going to follow in their children's footsteps and take a gap year. And the Gap Year runs at the Lyric Theatre until the 19th of February. Let's talk music now, and the UK's #1 Creedence Clearwater Revival tribute show bring you the Green River Tour, celebrating Creedence Clearwater Revival's #1 album Green River and the #1 hit single Bad Moon Rising. And you can catch the Creedence Clearwater Review, the Green River Tour at the Marketplace Theatre in Armagh on the 7th of February. Let's move on to the Ulster Hall here in Belfast, and we're giving you the chance to listen to the classical artistry of Alexis French at the Ulster Hall on the 3rd of February. And composer, pianist and producer Alexis French is one of the UK's most distinctive and groundbreaking artists, and you can catch Alexis at the Ulster Hall on the 3rd of February. And finally for now, if you want to catch a movie in cinemas this weekend, why not give Companion a go? A new kind of love story. Are you tired of swiping? Sick of getting ghosted? And are you feeling like part of you is missing? Well, findyourcompanion.com is guaranteed to find you a companion who's made for you. And you can catch Companion in cinemas everywhere this weekend. Right, still to come, we'll be chatting to 80s music legends Hue and Cry ahead of their gig at the Mandela Hall here in Belfast on the 7th of February. Kim Kelly is chatting to Emily Andre, and we got some brand new music on the way right after these.
Here we are on the North Coast, where sporting legends are made. He needs this putt to advance to the next stage, but can he do it? The crowd are holding their breath. Can he cope with the pressure?
Dad, would you take the shot?
Well,
They prayed and I stand on a mountain of hands and raise, oh raise me into the starlight. It can be.
There we go, that's their brand new music. That's called From Above, and I'm pleased to say the people behind that fabulous video join us now in the studio. James, Sara-Louise and Celine, welcome. James, I'm going to start with you because already that track is picking up lots of momentum, isn't it?
It's great, yeah. We had it on YouTube a few weeks ago and it's getting thousands of views and it's getting shared a lot. So just got to keep the momentum going, really.
Yeah, indeed. So how did all this come about then?
So the song originally was used in a TV show I scored called Elliott for Channel 5.
I watched that recently. It was actually a very good series.
You like it?
Yeah.
You like the score?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So I'd written, it was like late 2023, early 24. I had this sort of rough version of the song. And then, so in like when you do music, you put in temp scores and stuff like that. So I threw the song in one of the scenes in the show and just as a temp track, but the director and the producers liked it, so it stayed in.
Wow.
So it was only like the first 30 seconds for a minute was used. So it was like literally what you hear of the song, but Sarah's vocals weren't in at the time. It's just me going, you know, so, and then fast forward 5 months, I was chatting to Joe, who's off camera here, and I was saying, I need this, I'm looking to do this song. And Joe had just, he said a week before he'd judged this competition, Belfast Got Talent one, and he said, look, there's this great singer, and he fired me over a link of Sarah singing Titanium, and that's one of the songs I know, if someone can hit that high note,
yes, yeah,
you know, you're thinking, yeah, you got a good range. So I said to Joe, yeah, she sounds great. And he also said, there's this piano player, well, this Celine, who does like sort of soundtrack-esque cinematic music, you know, and the piano playing was just it was like speed, you know.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought, I've got to fit that in somehow. Yeah. So the song was kind of done. And so the section of Celine's part was literally just, it was strings. So I had a chat with her and I said, look, I want something dynamic that runs it. She took the chords and she wrote this, this thing that flies. And Joe, because Joe lives near, because I live in Groomsport, so Sarah coming back and forth, I thought, nah, you know, Joe said, look, I'll record it at my studio. So he recorded it, that's a lot of back and forth, sort of like that. And yeah, over the span of like a couple of weeks really, and then I had a video made of it as well. So, and then here we are now.
So there we go. So it's out there. Sara-Louise, we met you at Belfast Has Talent.
Yes.
Did you ever imagine when you entered the competition you'd have a video and a song out now?
No way. No, I was just going to see what happens and see how far I could get. But it's an amazing opportunity, and it was so much fun recording it as well and coming up with this amazing, beautiful piece.
Yeah. So tell us about you then. How long have you been singing for? And...
I've been singing on and off since I was quite young. So my dad's side of the family are all like into music, so going up every weekend, singing karaoke with the family. I think that just brought me to love music more, and ever since then I've just been singing, writing my own stuff. So yeah, I really love it.
Yeah, so as I said, we met at Belfast Has Talent, and when we did that competition, I mean, that was a fabulous atmosphere and a lot of fabulous entertainers in that competition.
Yes, oh my goodness, so much talent. You wouldn't believe how much talent Belfast has.
Yeah.
And the range of talent as well, like so many different ranges of talent. So it's just, yeah, it was amazing, and it was a great experience, and I got to meet amazing people like Celine, who's so talented. So yeah, it was great fun and gave me a lot of confidence that I think I needed, which was brilliant.
So now you've got the confidence, you've got the single out now as well. What's the kind of hopes for the future then?
Just to release more music, continue writing my own stuff, and just going from there, and meeting new people as well in the music industry, and getting different gigs and performing live. So it's all exciting and lots to look forward to.
Brilliant. Okay, let's talk to Celine now. I think you came second, didn't you, in Belfast Has Talent? So how did that feel?
Crazy. That the whole competition was just crazy. It's like 5 weeks, I think, of competing, And then as well, I only had 4 original pieces, like big ones to play. So while the whole competition was like going, I had to write another piece to fit in.
Yeah.
So that was a bit stressful, and I tried to write it and then learn it and everything. So, but yeah, it was.
And for you, it was just you and your keyboard there.
It was, yeah.
And as James mentioned, the stuff that you write and the stuff that you compose, I mean, it's almost like big movie scores, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of soundtracky, orchestral stuff, a lot of electronic things as well. I like record random sound effects I hear and then put them in as drums, and then just play piano to them and write little piano things. So as long as I'm like bashing the keyboard, I'm happy, and just make it big and epic, and yeah.
So what's next for you then? What's your kind of hopes and plans for the future?
Well, the piece that I wrote for Belfast Has Talent, I'm going to record that. Well, I've recorded it, but I need to get it mixed and mastered and stuff. So I'm going to go into a studio, get that done, and then do a wee music video, and then release that. That's the next plan for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. And James, would you work with these girls again?
Yeah, I've actually, Celine, going to see if I can get her involved with, I'm doing a Channel 4 series called In Flight.
Right.
So I'm currently doing that now, and they're still filming. And Sarah needs to get a set up at home, get her own mics and stuff, or she's going to be going to Joe's. But yeah, because I always use vocalists, just even doing sound effects with voices and stuff like that, not necessarily singing, but R's and, and I put them in samplers and do all sorts of things. So yeah, I'd love to work with them again. So.
Guys, thank you so much for coming in, and the best of luck with the new track From Above.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, if you've been wondering where Kim Kelly is this week, don't worry. She's been out and about. She's been chatting to the wife of Peter Andre, who's also a doctor, in case you didn't know. Kim's been chatting to Emily Andre about beating those January blues. She's been chatting about mushrooms as well, and of course, living with Peter Andre. Here's what happened when Kim Kelly caught up with Emily Andre.
Yes, it is still January, and this week we celebrated Blue Monday. I don't know if celebrate is exactly the word. Okay, we commiserated on Blue Monday. But luckily, I am here with Dr. Emily McDonough, who is going to give us little changes to our lives just to make things a little better. Now, your eyes are not deceiving you. Dr. Emily McDonough is actually Mrs. Peter Andre, but we don't worry about that because we don't even do maiden names on this show because we don't care. And apparently he's at home today looking after the kids. And as I always say, isn't that the best place for a man? There you go.
He's on daddy daycare duties.
Now, you're a very busy woman. You have all these children, you have all these stepchildren. So you're having to deal with a lot of different people in your home who maybe are a little bit cross and grumpy and teenage. What little tips do you have us? Please tell us. How can we stop them being so grumpy?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had the answer to that. I think if I wrote a book on that, it would be a #1 bestseller for all of time, I think.
Yes.
You know what it is, I think with my kids, I'm a real stickler for routine. So they kind of know, they whinge about it a little bit, but they sort of know what's coming up. And I think it helps them to kind of keep the week predictable, and they know what's coming. But I'm a big advocate as well for just talking. I have this real thing about meal times and how we all need to sit down around the table together and have a conversation, because I think it just keeps them, I guess it gives them practice on like just having that conversation about, oh, something happened today that wasn't the best, or, oh, this was great thing that happened today. And I hope, my hope is that it will kind of strengthen our relationship together, but also, as they're then growing up, feeling maybe a bit more able to open up about things, I think. But they do whinge about that as well sometimes. They say, oh, can we have the TV on at dinner? And I go, nope, no TV.
You say absolutely no, it's no screens at all.
Yeah, no screens. And that includes me, because I have to put my phone down as well, because obviously I guess I want them to know that I want to hear them. It's important what they have to say. Now, I can't promise that stops them from being grumpy, but I do think it makes them trust you, like builds trust and I guess love in your relation, builds love in that relationship, doesn't it? So they talk to you.
What about food? Now, it's very hard to get children to eat new things. And we're actually here today, people, to talk about mushrooms. There you go.
Yes.
We're here to talk about mushrooms. And how do you get your children to try new things? Because I know that my child, whenever he's little, wouldn't have touched a mushroom.
That's a really good question. So I actually feel really lucky. My kids are not too bad with veggies. They're quite happy to eat vegetables. But I think if you've got kids who really are struggling with the particular vegetables, like say with mushrooms, just chop them up really small and blend them into, you can even blend them into puree. And the classic one with mushrooms I find is spag bol. You can mix it up really tiny. And because it almost looks like, it can look a little bit like mince, and then when you cook it in the spaghetti bolognese, I really don't think kids will notice. I think you can disguise healthy foods within dishes for your kids. I think as well, it's just about persevering a little bit, because I honestly think, especially when you're like the weaning stages for a baby, they've got to try new things. I think it's around 10 times before they will actually like it. And I think obviously it's natural, isn't it? I fed Belle something the other day and she really looked as if, what on earth have you just given me? But I thought, no, so I'm going to give it to her again. I've got to make sure, repeating it, because if they just have it a certain number of times, about 10 times, I think it is, they'll get to like it. So it's that perseverance, but it is hard, because as well, sometimes you want the easy life, don't you? You want them to just eat the dinner that you've put in front of them. But
nuggets and chips, yes.
But with something like mushrooms, for example, they're so full of nutrition. I think that people often don't realise. So they've got folate, the B vitamins, vitamin D, selenium. So if we can get them into our own bodies and also our kids' bodies, is a massive bonus.
What about your own diet? Now, you're an NHS doctor. I'm not sure that everybody knows that about you, because they obviously see you on the red carpet with Peter and Princess and Junior, but they maybe don't realise that you're an NHS doctor. You're a working woman like we all are. Do you bring a packed lunch with you to work, or are you like always trying to grab dinner?
So I tend to, I always bring a lunch in. Obviously, I'm on maternity leave at the moment, so I have to really think back, like, oh my goodness, what did I do? I did. I used to, more often than not, I would take in leftovers, whatever we'd had for dinner the night before, and just pop it in the microwave at work. Or I'd bring in, I'd make a sandwich or bits like that. I always get hungry at work. I think it's something to do with your brain working.
Yes. So what kind of dinners do you eat normally? Would you be a plain cook, or do you like sort of more fancy food?
I would say very much kind of classic home cooking meals. And I'm trying kind of branch away from what I cook all the time. Otherwise, I feel like I end up doing the same things. But it's usually things like spaghetti bolognese, jacket potatoes. And now I've been doing all this, reading all about mushrooms, getting mushrooms in the diet all the time, because they're, just absolutely packed full of goodies.
Do you get time to work out with all your children and work? And
I have to say that's where I fall short, definitely. But I do try and keep active. And I think any kind of mums or dads out there will know what I mean. You're on your feet all day long, so I do get my steps up on my watch, and I try and walk to school to pick up the kids, for example. I think getting outside is really important, even in the winter.
Really is.
It is, and that's the other thing as well. I don't know, something I've learned recently is that mushrooms contain vitamin D, which is really, really important in the winter, because obviously we're not getting vitamin D from the sunshine, especially if you're vegan or vegetarian. They're pretty much the only plant-based source of vitamin D. So
that's interesting, because particularly here in Northern Ireland and Ireland, apparently we're all deficient in vitamin D, because we don't get any sun at all.
Absolutely. So that's a really, really good excuse to try and get some mushrooms in your diet. So if you get the UV treated mushrooms, it should say on the packet, UV treated, or that they've got vitamin D. Yeah, which is really important. Vitamin D is so important for so many different functions in our bodies.
And finally, do you have any plans for this year? Any exciting projects coming up?
Well, you know what? It's because obviously, I'm on maternity leave at the moment, and our little one is going to be 1 in a few months. So kind of thinking about kind of going back to work and how that's going to look. And, and my eldest daughter, starting secondary school in September.
Big change.
So really big change. So I've kind of feel feel quite excited about this year, actually. And I do think it's going to be, the juggle's going to change again. I'm going to be different school run, different things going on. But it's a really big milestone for her. I remember my first day at secondary school. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And then with everything that comes with that, because you only sort of think, whenever you're raising kids, you only sort of think up until secondary school. But now you've got this whole leap, and it'll all be the friendship groups and and boys.
I know. I've got that to got that to come. I've got that to come.
It's non-stop, but sure, you wouldn't have it any other way.
No, I know. Honestly, I enjoy it so much.
It's great. Emily, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. And I'm going to try and sneak mushrooms into my son's diet. So ladies, I want you all to be doing that as well. Thank you very much for your time, Mrs. Emily Andre, aka Dr. Emily McDonough.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much.
Still to come on the final part of the show, we're chatting to 80s music legends Hue Cry. They'll be with us right after these.
Let the good times roll at Super Strikes at the Jet Centre. You can now book your lane online. We've got 14 bowling lanes and 4 mini bowling lanes. Plus we serve delicious hot food and snacks, or enjoy a cold beverage with your food after the game. Discover bowling today at the Jet Centre. Jet Centre, entertainment for everyone.
Right, big gig coming up in Belfast at the Mandela Hall on the 7th of February. Last week in the show, we talked to Carol Decker from Tapau. Tapau will be there along with Katrina from Katrina and the Waves. And my next guests are going to be there also. It is Hue Cry, Greg and Pat. How are you two today?
Walking on sunshine, yeah. feeling pretty the other side of the heterosexual divide there. So two great femme artists.
Pat, we are going to be so bullied at this gig, man.
No, it's great. I'm just femme power all the way down the line.
Back in the day, I mean, you guys must have been bumping into all kinds of music superstars on Top of the Pops and shows like that.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. The famous, we were doing Looking for Linda, and Top of the Pops is one of my famous stories. And you would meet in the reception area of the BBC building, and it was like a scene out of Mad Men. It's all that brilliant 50s, 60s furniture, and it was all it was a circular building, so it kind of circular kind of 50s design all over the place. It was an amazing place to sit, and I was sitting there, and I thought, that's Paul Simon. I said, no, it can't be Paul Simon. He's not on Top of the Pops. What's he doing? I said to my bass player, is that Paul Simon? He said, it looks like Paul Simon. So I'm going to go over. So I went over and said, we've recorded in Sigma Sound in New York where you made your album Gracelands. He went, yeah. I said, we used an engineer called Fernando Kral, Cuban guy. He's like, yeah. And I said, right, just come up to say hello, and we've got a kind of thing in common. He's like, yeah, thanks for coming over, man. Really enjoying your music. And that was it. I went back, sat down. I thought, well, okay, then I didn't know him very much. But when I looked at the running order on Top of the Pops, he wasn't on Top of the Pops. I thought, what's he doing here? But who was on Top of the Pops was Edie Brickell and the Bohemians.
Yes.
And I saw him floating about, and I kept seeing him in the crowd and wondering, going, what on earth is he doing here? That's when he started dating her.
Yeah.
And they're married now, kids and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
That was back, and nobody knew.
Yeah, wow.
Floating about the television centre, kind of anonymous with his skip cap on.
You guys, I was probably the same show where we told Kenny G to stop playing backstage because he was in the hell out of everybody. So to tell Kenny G to stop playing his soprano saxophone,
exactly, yeah.
Not good behaviour.
You guys supported Madonna as well, didn't you, at one stage?
Certainly did.
Yes, we did support Madonna at Wembley Stadium and Leeds Roundhay Park, and you never got anywhere near it. It was quite funny. All the paparazzi were following a limousine, but Madonna used to turn up in a white transit van with the crew. The limousine was a complete decoy. So I used to laugh at these stupid paparazzi, and I used to take them on a wild goose chase all around Mayfair and Kensington, and she was in a transit van heading to Wembley Stadium. It was like so stupid. But I met her about 2 months after those shows in New York. I walked into a lift, and she was standing in the lift with Sean Penn. And I thought, right, well, I need to say something. So I said, my name is Greg Kane, I play with the band Hue Cry, and we played with you some shows in England. And she just looked at me, and I think what I sounded like to her was, she probably didn't hear a West of Scotland accent very often.
Yeah, West Coast accent, but not a West of Scotland accent.
You probably could have Sean Penn, I think, was reaching for a gun. What's this guy barking at my wife for? Anyway, that was, but that was the same hotel that I stayed in all those months in New York, and I befriended. Do you remember the TV show Petrocelli?
Yes.
The lawyer that was built in his house. I used to meet him every morning for breakfast. Him and Nick Nolte.
Wow.
But Nick Nolte was drinking tequila for breakfast. Me and Petrocelli weren't. Nick Nolte was a bit fun. I remember that. Nice guy.
Yeah. Wow.
But smelt of tequila.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yes, yeah. I was talking to Carol last week in the show about Smash Hits magazine. We all bought that back in the 80s to get the posters and, more importantly, get the song lyrics of songs. And Carol was telling me about some of the things she regretted doing in interviews with Smash Hits. Did you guys ever have any crazy interviews with the magazine?
The thing about Smash Hits was that it was full of quite really brilliant people. Neil Tennant used to be a writer on Smash Hits. A guy called Chris Heath did an amazing book about Robbie Williams, one of his first biographies. So it was full of people who were kind of used to be in the music business, used to be in the rock press, like Melody Maker, NME, and who were just sort of deciding to sort of go for it in the go-go 80s. So quite a lot of cynicism and quite a lot of critical negativity. So yeah, it was always tricky talking to Smash Hits because they weren't just tabloid, they were smart as well. So they would ask you questions that could really unravel you, you know.
What about playing Belfast in the 80s? There was a lot of groups and performers that wouldn't come because of the troubles. Tapau came. Did you guys come to Belfast back in the 80s?
I've got to tell you, the obvious story is that we were doing, is it the Kelly Show?
Yeah, yeah.
And number one, Ian Paisley was on that night. And we were asked to change the song lyrics of Looking for Linda. Is this one for Paisley? Oh, you've got to help me. And we had to change it. Is this one for maybe? Oh, you've got to help me. I can't remember what we changed it to. And then it was a particularly hot period in the Troubles. And then the second thing I realised was everybody, because this is a live show, everybody in Northern Ireland on all sides knows exactly where Ian Paisley is tonight.
Yes, yeah.
Location in this place. And I just remember the size of his bouncers. I mean, these guys were literally about well over 6 feet, like a wall of flesh. However, having said that, we've had some of our loveliest gigs in Belfast. Most the audiences are there to love music. They're not there to be involved in anything else. They're there to love you and your music. And we've played in all manner of large, small, odd, riverside, centre of city venues. Is that you? Would you accord with that, Gregory?
Yeah, I'm just the Mandela Hall that we're playing next month. What a beautiful venue!
Yeah.
Now, and it's in the university district.
Yeah.
So it's in the kind of whole hub of the kind of collegiate academia side of Belfast, which is brilliant. We've been a few times recently, watched it all kind of transform. But I mean, this hall looks fabulous. I'm so excited about playing it. Looks as though it's going to sound great as well. So yeah, can't wait. We're bringing our electroacoustic setup, which means, you know, Pat and I have made an electronic record. I'm just compiling the vocals as we speak, dear brother.
Brilliant.
And it's all electronica. So when we play it live, it's just the two of us. Well, I've got banks of synthesizers. So I'm kind of somewhere between Japan and Howard Jones. That's what I look like.
Wow, brilliant, brilliant. Are we going to get the big hits as well? Are we going to get Labour of Love?
Oh, God.
Yes, you're going to. We play Labour of Love with the electronica, but what we do with Labour of Love is we show the audience how we wrote it with the exact drum machine that we wrote it with, and it's got quite a bit of energy. Looking for Linda, I'm using all the exact drum sounds and loops that were on the record. Violently, it's kind of weird sort of ethereal waltz thing, so it's all there, and it's all kind of pretty much back to the way we did it. So it'll be more 80s than it's ever sounded.
And a lot of people make up their own lyrics to Labour of Love as well. It's on the list of one of the most misheard song lyrics of all time or something, isn't it?
Winthrop, my
Pat
neighbour.
Still mispronounces some of the words.
Brilliant. Well, guys, we look forward to seeing you in Belfast, Mandela Hall, on the 7th of February. Great talking to you both.
We were standing side stage, hurling abuse at Carol Decker all night. Yes!
And of course, you can catch Hue and Cry along with Tapau and Katrina from Katrina and the Waves at the Mandela Hall here in Belfast on the 7th of February. That's all we have time for on the show this week. See you back here same time next week. Bye-bye.